G'day guys, welcome back to the Rugby League Guru podcast. Another installment of our best 17s today. We're going to go through the Parramatta Eels. A lot of change at the Eels this year. I feel like it is sort of a changing the guard sort of year with Gutho leaving, Mitch Moses becoming the full-time captain. A number of new guys coming into the system as well, and obviously some new guys coming in that are making a big impact almost immediately. So very, very exciting times at the Parramatta Eels. I sort of had them 7th or 8th the other day in our bloke preview. I think they're going to have a half-decent season. A lot of people push back on that. So we'll see how it all plays out for Parramatta. Obviously, a new coach coming in, all that sort of stuff. And there's positives and negatives. Negatives being the inexperience. Positives being something to prove once again to a new coach. So, I don't know. I'm a little bit up and about. I think a lot of it will come down to the young guys that are coming into this side and how they play and whatnot. But I think the biggest factor of all is Mitch Moses. If he can stay upright and available, I think the Parramatta Eels go very, very close to making the top 8, if not scrape in there. Guys, if you're not part of the Roo Crew yet, come and join us in there. The link is in the description. We've got a Super Coach comp in there just for the Roo Crew being announced very soon with a few $1,000s of a cash prize up in there. So make sure you come and join the Roo Crew. All of our stats, early access and video content for all things in the Roo Crew. Come and join us for season 2025. Let's get stuck into the Parramatta Eels. At fullback, arriving over from the Penrith Panthers, we've got Iongi. I'm very keen to see how he goes. You look at his New South Wales Cup games, his New South Wales Cup stats as well. All looks pretty positive. I think that Iongi doesn't have to absolutely blow the world away. I think that they've got a very talented outside backs group, great halves, good forward pack. They tick a lot of boxes. I just think Iongi, they just need him to be consistent. You've got Papali'i there at the club as well, who could be the next man up. You've also got Lomax, who I would still love to see given an opportunity at fullback throughout his career. But I think right now, Iongi, he is the best bet to go there. If you put Lomax there, you need to find another centre or winger or whatever. And I do have my concerns about the other guys in the squad as far as that goes. So when I look at the Parramatta team, I think Iongi is the best option at fullback. Wait and see how he goes. They'll be patient with him. We don't expect too much of him immediately. We just need him to go in, do a job and be consistent. I think he can do that. Wingers. I've got Josh Adokar arriving at the club. I think he misses the first game or two because of a suspension from last season. But I think Fox is a really underrated signing. The last 8 months or so haven't been great for Josh Adokar, and I get that 100%. But if you take out that period of time, he really has been a tremendous leader for a long time, whether it be at the Melbourne Storm or at the Canterbury Bulldogs. I personally don't think the Bulldogs would be where they are today had they not signed Josh Adokar a couple of years ago. So I still respect what he's done at that club a lot, and I think it has to stand for something. And I think now he's had his pants pulled down. He's been embarrassed. He's got something to prove. He's got to build up his character and build himself back up as a footballer as well. I think he's going to be a really, really good signing, Josh Adokar. Bailey Simonson will be on the other wing. There's a few options here. I think Simonson is probably the best option. I'd be happy to take him. Does good work out of his own end. I think a couple of years ago he was playing with Wonga Blake, and I think Wonga Blake did him no favours whatsoever defensively, which made life very, very hard for Bailey Simonson. I think he'll line up on the right wing, and I think he'll do a good job there. Centres. Lomax and Penasini for me. Look, guys, I know a lot of you want to play Lomax on the wing, and I get where you're coming from 100%. I don't push back on it, but I think he will line up in the centres, and I still think he can be a fantastic centre. And to be honest with you, when I compare, like if Lomax isn't going to be in the centres, who is? I think there's a bigger drop-off to allowing Simonson to play on the wing. I think they've got numerous wingers. Is Lomax a better winger than centre? There's every chance he probably is. But I don't mind the idea of him playing centre. And as I said the other day, I think he'll win Dally M Centre of the Year. I think he's a new fella. I think that, people are looking at the guy Lomax was 2 years ago and pretending like that's exactly what he's going to go back to. I think Lomax has learned a lot in the last 12 months. I think he's worked a lot out, and I can't see him going back to the sort of guy he was then. So I'm confident in Lomax playing centre. I think he's going to have a really good season. I believe he's going to play right centre outside Mitch Moses. I think that's great real estate. Will Penasini moves to the left. We'll see how he goes with that change. But Will Penasini is a classy centre. I think he's a very underrated guy in our league still. He's only been around for a few years. It feels like he's been around forever now. He's consistent. he just ticks boxes for me. So Will Pensini, he'll line up on the left. The halves, guys, we won't waste your time here. We don't need to tell you who's going to be the halves. Parramatta, Mitch Moses, Dill Brown, both off contract every 12 months, whatever the hell it might be. Both looking to impress. Mitch Moses, I think that last year, outside of with Parramatta, I thought it was probably the best season of his career. You know, obviously the Origin dominance into playing for the Kangaroos, sensational. So I think Moses is in for a huge season. He's a little Dally M smoky for me this year. And Dill Brown, last year was sort of forced to play the halfback role. He didn't do it well. Let's be honest here. It was pretty disappointing. I thought he'd do better than what he was, but you know, some 5'8" are just 5'8", and that's okay. He has got a premier halfback next to him. Dill Brown will be better with Mitch Moses back next to him. So I'm excited about Dill Brown heading into this season. Forward pack, obviously you have Junior starting in the front row. And you know what? A couple of weeks ago, I had Jackie Williams coming over from the Sharkies. I had him on the bench. Look, for him to get into the leadership group, that tells me he's doing something right. Maybe it means he'll play on the edge. I probably think he'll play in the middle. I sort of think there's a world where they start with Paulo and Jack Williams. For him to arrive and be that impressive, he's got to be ticking boxes. He's got to be setting standards, and I think he'll get rewarded for that. If they're already giving him, you know, a vice captaincy, I think they'll reward him even more by starting him in the front row. So see how it goes. He could play on the edge still. I think he's better as a middle personally, but I think we are going to see a new version of Jack Williams than what we had previously. Wherever it is, middle or edge, I think they have got some issues in both of them that they need to sort out. Hopefully Jack Williams can solve one of those problems. So him and Junior starting up front. I'd have Brendan Hand starting in jersey 9. It looks like he's going to play decent minutes if you're, you know, reading into the rumours that are coming out of the Eels and Western Sydney and whatnot. But yeah, I think Brendan Hands is probably the best option there. And I think when you've got elite halves like the Parramatta Eels do, I don't think you need an elite hooker. I think you need a guy that's going to be good defensively and just get the ball to his halves when they need it. On the edges, Kelma Tuolangi, I'd have him on the right outside Mitch Moses with Zach Lomax. I think that's how they will line up. I think he's going to have a big breakout year this year, Kelma. I'm very, very excited about him. Left side, I've got Bryce Cartwright as it stands right now, but you could have Madison. You could have Sean Lane again. There's so many guys you could pick there on the left edge. I've got Cartwright at the moment. I'm, you know, reading into team lists and things you're hearing. I'm not sure if he's in favour, out of favour. I don't really know. I've got Cartwright there, but I think that is really anyone's guess as far as who's going to line up on both edges for the Parramatta Eels. Jersey 13, we already mentioned it before, another guy in the leadership group, Jermaine Hopgood. He's the best 13 at the club. I think he's one of the better 13s in rugby league in general. And it's a full credit to him, and not just because, you know, he's one of my favourites or whatever, but I think that similar to Moses and Brown, he's an absolute automatic. I don't think you'd find anyone that has a team without Hopgood in Jersey 13 for the Eels. Let's move to the bench. Jersey 14. I want Hands to go the distance. Whether he can or not, I don't know. I'm not there week in, week out at training, seeing how he's going fitness-wise and how he's going to handle it. So I think they probably will still go with a utility more than likely. Lussick's obviously did it last year. I think there's a young guy in the squad named Riley Smith. You guys will probably see him in the trials this weekend coming. He's been absolutely braining it as far as fitness tests and everything goes. I reckon there's a chance that he could potentially make his way into this squad. And I think that if he is in this squad, I think you could play Brendan Hands for 60-odd. And I think Smith could offer a little bit more if he was to come off the bench there. But Lussick is in the squad right now. He's probably more likely. But Riley Smith is a little guy to watch there at the Parramatta Eels for me, who I think could really complement Brendan Hands nicely. The rest of my bench guys, just these big middle forwards. Two of them can play edge, but I think they'll probably play middle, who will do a job for you. The first one is Ryan Madison. Love him on the edge, but I equally love him through the middle, and I think Parramatta need Maddo through the middle. So he'd be jersey 15. 16, Joe Offengawi. I originally had him starting until Jack Williams sort of jumped out of the ground a little bit. I bring him back to the bench. I let Jack Williams start. You could go either way. I'm happy with that. Madison, Offengawi. And then I think jersey 17 has to be Sean Lane. Now, if Sean Lane can get back to the form that we saw a couple of years ago that had me ready to pick him in an Australian squad, straight away he probably goes back to the left edge. We just haven't seen it the last few years in reality, but with a new coach, if he can get it out of him, that changes everything very quickly. And I think Bryce Cartwright could become the unlucky one very quickly because you're probably not going to bring him off the bench because you can't really use him as a middle, especially when you have to run with a utility. So Sean Lane's a huge watch for me. I think he'll probably come off the bench and play from the middle. That's how I do it at the moment. But I want to see these guys in trials and see them in the early rounds to make that decision. Guys that haven't made the squad, obviously Dean Hawkins, he will add depth to the outside backs. Hayes Dunster, Joash Papali'i, good depth there. Sean Russell's probably the unluckiest one from the back line not to make the side. Really like Sean Russell, and it wouldn't completely shock me if he does end up in the side. But I'd sort of be going with the guys I've got there. Forward pack, guys that haven't made it. Charlie Geimer, he's lining up in jersey 13 this week for the Eels in their trial. Keep an eye on him. He's a hard worker with big upside. He's, as I said, he's a hard worker. It wouldn't shock me if we get to round one and Jason Riles goes, nah, fuck this. That young guy has put his hand up and has really delivered this offseason and has proven how much he wants this jersey. I'm going to give it to him to set an example. He's the one that I think is most likely to burst into this side. Other guys that haven't made the side, you've got Matt Dory, Luca Moretti, Kotoga, who's come over from the Canterbury Bulldogs, Widamu Greg, Matale. So there's a few guys there that can do a job for the Parramatta Eels, and a few guys there that are established first graders like Luca Moretti. I'm confident of his abilities as a first grader week in, week out. I think Geimer will be there very quickly. Kotoga coming from the Bulldogs, he's got a heap of ability that we'll see over the next few seasons. Matt Dory, I don't think he's a star, but you could do much worse than having him as well. So the forward pack depth, I'm okay with it. I think it's looking pretty good. If Jack Williams can jump out of the ground like it sounds like he is, I think that'll be a huge needle mover for the Parramatta Eels. My forward to watch there, though, guys, Kelma Tuolangi, I think he's in for a big, big season. And Zach Lomax to win Dally M Centre is another one of my big calls. Parramatta, I think they'll just scrape into the 8 this year with that 17 that I have picked there. If they have a good injury run and Mitch Moses stays fit, I give them every chance to play finals footy in 2025.